Hey, it's the Chief, bonding with board games and RPGs. Welcome to Season 2 of Orphans, Twilight 2000 4th edition. So Casimir and his younger brother Edic, Casimir's 16, brother Edic, will be the lead protagonists of this season. We're in Nizhno, Poland. We're on the base. See Season 1 if you want to know what's going on there. And Casimir is checking in on Sanchez. Sanchez got wounded fairly severely in the battle that was just a few days ago. And he's bringing Sanchez some food in the hospital ward and is begging, begging Sanchez to help him learn how to read. So I am using the Mythic emulator for fate questions and such. Let me get my dice out, and do I have my percentiles in here? I might need to go grab some percentiles. All right, I suppose I could have used the 10-sided dice in there, but I like having my percentiles. Yes, you will see colorful manga shirts on occasion, and generally this hat, but sometimes other hats as well. Also with Mythic, I have my little summaries that will help me keep things together. But as they take food to Sanchez, and young Casimir is requesting, oh, I put it over there, he's got, I don't think he's carrying Meditations from Marcus Aurelius Round with him, the book that he got from Pacheco's pack, but he's got like some real basic reading material. I think maybe even like an old magazine or a newspaper, something where it's, you know, that easier level of writing. And he's trying to help Sanchez by bringing him food and kind of nursing him a little bit, but he's hungry to learn how to read English. He's learned to speak it. He wants to know how to read it. I think Sanchez, a former Marine, is not particularly looking, former Marine, always Marine, is not looking to become like Uncle Pacheco. I think he's going to be unlikely. We're going to say there's a chaos factor of 5. That's where things are starting. 35%. So he's only going to say yes to this if I get a 35 or less. 47. He goes, I'm no teacher, Casimir. I'm not Pacheco. I'm sorry he got killed. I'm sorry he's dead. But I have no patience for teaching kids. Hell, I can barely read myself. No knocking towards the Marines, but he says, you know, I'm no teacher. Go find somebody else. Go get somebody learned. I bet you Kanan could teach you to read. And Casimir has never had a real good feeling on Creed, and nor does he want to get any closer in terms of like being instructed by him. So he just says, oh, I was hoping you would help me out. He's like, I'm no damn teacher. Boom, he rejects him. And Casimir said, well, here's your soup, and I got you a little bit of carrots as well. Not easy to come by, and if you change your mind, please, I really want to read these books that Pacheco had. He goes, man, those are hard books. All right, well, that didn't work out at all, although part of that coin is that helping of others, and he really does owe Sanchez a lot. So Sanchez held the corner in the main battle, took some wounds, and pulled through. But I'm curious. So not knowing what else would be going on, when we left Season 1, burial details had already been out. There were no taking of wounded prisoners. There were just shots here and there. And several people got away. But I do think in Season 1, Casimir and his younger brother Alec, for his demise, it is a demise, you need to go see Season 1, they went out on a very crucial recon and did a great job for the whole base and really for Kanan. I think oddly, one of Jan, who's a marauder, a Polish native that works for Krieg, sees Casimir and says, hey, Krieg's got a mission for you. And Casimir, this is all in Polish, Casimir says, well, what is it? He wants you to go out and kind of judge the feel of the people now that a few days have passed. You know, are we getting ready to get hit again? I told him there's no way. We bloodied their nose. But he wants you to go out and see what you can do on a recon. And I think Casimir, knowing from the get-go he's got to earn his keep, he says, fine, no problem. So Casimir has a deal, though. He doesn't trust the world in general. And he says, Eric's coming with me. Jan says, let's say that it's like noon. And Jan says he wants you out there by 1300, which is just an hour away. He says, fine, no problem. Casimir goes and finds Eric. Eric is in like wherever their barracks area is that they're staying in, inside their base. And he's got like an old radio that's all broken down and pulled apart. He says, what are you doing? He goes, trying to make it work. He goes, you're going to need batteries for that. He's like, I got batteries. I got batteries for it, but it wasn't working. So Eric's got this thing pulled apart and all of its pieces. He goes, hey, well, get your kit ready. You're going out with me. He says, I don't want to go out. He says, well, I don't want to leave you here. And I think this is an issue. Casimir believes that, you know, the base could be destroyed at any moment. And he's likes to keep, heck, it's his, one of his mantras is, my brother goes where I go, protect Eric. And he believes the only person that's really got Eric's interest to heart is him. But this is interesting. So right off the bat, let me make a note. Eric doesn't like leaving the base. He likes the safety and security that is on base, and he's messing around with tech, which is really what he likes anyway. So I'm curious, you know, do you drag your brother out or do you trust him? I think right off the bat, his empathy sucks. He's a D with no other command or persuasion skills. So a D just means a six-sided die. I think he's going to tell him, he's going to try to exert his elder brotherly power and says, hey, when I tell you to come with me outside the wire, you just say yes. And he gets a 1. Which is perfect because Eric looks up from his radio and says, you're kidding me. And I think he gives him a little curse, you know, like a playful, like a what the hell in Polish, whatever that would be. If anybody has some good Polish terms or translates it, put it in the comments. And he says, first of all, what are you going to do? Drag me out over the wall or drag me along out in the slums? Come on, man. You're better off moving around without me anyway. Let me just play with my radio. I think Casimir's pissed. He realizes he can't just force Eric out. So it's so interesting. The twist is he wants to keep him with him. It's the only way he trusts anything is himself, which is a little flaw. But he realizes he can't make Eric go. What point would that be? So he goes and finds First Sergeant Wilson. He says, hey, I'm going out to do some recon. First Sergeant, you got to do me a favor. You got to promise me you're going to keep an eye on Eric. Now, First Sergeant doesn't play around. And he was a steadying point right after Pacheco and Alec were killed. And First Sergeant says, I got you, Casimir. He's messing with a radio right now. He ain't going anywhere. And I'll keep an eye on him. Boom. Casimir asks First Sergeant too. He's got a Car 15, like a shortened down, real stubby M16 or an M4 back in the day, Car 15 made by Colt. He says, I don't want to take this out. I think not that folks don't have American weapons in the city, but I'd be way more comfortable with some kind of Kalashnikov. First sergeant says, yeah, we got a bunch piled up over on the east side of the cafeteria where we just policed them up. Go thumb through them and pick what you want. Casimir goes and he's kind of like moving through them. There's some junky ones in there, AK-47s, AK-74s. Then he spots a nice AK-47 that looks Romanian. And he grabs onto it. They have a little bit of a different look. I'll throw a picture up on the screen. He checks the mag, grabs a couple other mags, stuffs them into his ruck. Makes sure he's topped off with 7.62 ammo, so he's got a mag in the gun, and I think he's picked up 3 extra mags, 30-round mags outside the gun. And that's it. We're talking like a light civilian type pack as well. Nothing that's going to make him stand out as being part of the Nosian base group, which the whole reason of him going outside the walls is to kind of check the pulse of the place and see what they're thinking. He also decides he wants to go out. Let me grab the map. He doesn't want to go out the front gates. He wants to go out through the wooded area that is down in the southeast portion. It backs up to a church. Again, you're looking at a map, and he knows he can get over it there and then kind of move in through the church area, which is also controlled by them, but people will occasionally come and go from this church or some of the businesses that are around there. Well, does he successfully exfil? Does he get out without anybody necessarily paying attention to him? Again, I'm going to use the fate chart for this. I think it's probably a fairly sure thing. He knows this area. He's even picked the location that's going to allow him to kind of blend and exit without being, it's not like he's walking out the front gates in an American uniform. That would be problematic, but we don't know. It's a 90% on a yes, and whoa, 98. Just shy. All right, sorry. Real shooting. So, Casimir is a problem. We did not get an extreme no. That would have been a 99. That probably would have meant like an ambush or something. But we got to know. So something happens. Either somebody spotted him or they're going to take a shot. I want to go to the event meaning action and subject in mythic and see what we get. Percentile dice. 98 is overthrow. Okay. Overthrow. So what this is we come up with action subject to kind of get an idea of what happens. Overthrow 27, a project. All right, well, already this has to be the whole Nisno attack. So overthrow project. Does that mean the cities rebelled against the attack that was on the base? I don't know, I need more. 4. Ooh, fight. Well, okay. Fight what? Fight what? 35. 35 is legal matters. Huh. Okay, matters. I'm going to go one more time because legal matters throws me. That could have been a lot of things. 56, usurp. Well, now it's all back into, the attack on the base. 63. 63 is power. So there we go. All right, so there's like a little mini civil war inside Nisno that has nothing to do with the base, with the U.S. military troops, with Kane and Krieg, has nothing to do with that. And this is typical. When you get a group, especially this militia group, you have the Marauders running a group that's coming in, but they're also getting the city involved and stirring that up and fermenting that. And then here comes the attack, and it got totally blown up. And what this tells me is there's a complete, mini civil war going on out in Nisno. The citizens are going after the Marauders that hit the base. Okay, so that means to me with Casimir leaving and being seen, what he's picking up on is there's still some marauders out there. It's been a couple days. But I think he's going to get contacted by someone. All right, male or female? We'll do even as female, odd as male, 3. So there's a male. I'm going to say, I don't know, I feel like it's an elderly guy. Yeah, okay. It's going to be an elderly Nose-Nosian. Here comes Casimir thinking he's being all secretive, and he's this is how he got out. Of course, you know, I think we determined it wasn't night, so he's just kind of trying to mosey out of that church area in the southwest. And as he comes across the main highway area or roadway over there and back over towards some buildings, there's an older man, completely non-threatening, but looks like he's just sitting there waiting. And I think even from maybe like an elevated position of a window in a building. And he calls out, I think he calls out in Polish, "Can we talk?" And I think Casimir has that Romanian AK-47 down, but he looks up at that window, and he's, of course, I think Casimir says where. He's not necessarily very comfortable in this position, but let's be clear, even the old man could have run an ambush on him from that second-story window and probably won the day. So he says, come over behind on the other side of the building. And I don't think there's any trickery here. The feeling from these rolls is that he's confronted, but he's going to be given this information. So as he comes around, I need a name, and I need a Polish name. So, all right, Kozlowski. So Casimir comes around the corner, and again, the older man, I want to say he's actually in his 60s, and he says, "I'm Kozlowski." And I think Casimir says, "Casimir." And Kozlowski says, city's in revolt. The citizens are seeking out and just executing the marauders. And any of the small arms fire you hear, we're done with that business. And Casimir says, "All right, what can I do for you?" He says, "Well, I saw where you came from. And I just want to let you know that Nose proper has no problems with the folks in the hospital." So Casimir's like, "Great, I'm still going to want to take a look with my own eyes." And Kozlowski's like, "Of course. You don't have to take my word for it. Matter of fact, don't. But you may want to just hang tight for a little bit and let things happen that are happening." So I think Casimir's like, okay, it's probably meaning it's not a good time to just be wandering around in the fringes around the hospital with your AK-47. I would imagine there's Nose-Nosians, like vigilante style, out taking care of the problem. So Casimir's going to do 2 things. One, he's going to go to the bear den. I think that's perfect. Again, refer back to season 1 for the bear den. But with Kozlowski, he's got a connection, friendly connection. And I think he says, I wouldn't mind checking in with you now and then. And Kozlowski says, I think that's actually very likely, although the rolls haven't been necessarily good for us, 85%, 70. He says, you bet. This building, This is my current residence. And so he's got a point not too far off the southeast corner of the hospital area where he could meet up with Cause and exchange information as need be. So perfect. And Casimir moves off in a location that's going to move him towards his bear den. Now, the bear den was, there's a semi-collapsed building, and on prior missions, Casimir had located like a crawl space, pretty tight one that he could get in. He checked it out, and the area, although part of a collapsed building, seemed fairly safe, secure. Maybe the way it collapsed, it looked like it was going to hold its own void. I don't know how safe that would be, but I've got to assume Casimir's seen his fair share of collapsed buildings, and he was able to even stock it with some extra food and I think some extra weapons and ammo when they were there. And it was almost like his bug out shelter if everything went bad with Canaan Creek. During the Bartek attack, there was some thoughts that maybe he might even bail out of there with his brothers, but he stayed. He heads that way. He had blocked the access so that it was, I don't know if it's a piece of tin or a big rock, but he had done some way to kind of conceal it. I didn't want his cache of stuff to come up missing. So I think he's going to move toward it. When last there, he was moving out early morning dark or coming in late at night dark. So he comes in surreptitiously to get an eye on that. And does he see anything wrong with it? 50-50, I don't know. 50-50, so 50 or less, he sees at least somebody's been messing around or is currently there. 56, so no, before he moves in, of course, he gets a position where he can see it. And everything looks in its proper place. I think Casimir's survival ability, which is very good anyway, he even maybe had, a torn shirt or something that would look inconspicuous, but it's angled in a way over maybe the rock that's blocking the hole, that if it was moved, unless somebody really knew to put it right back where it was, he would be able to tell, okay, someone's been there and time to just leave it alone. Whatever he sees, whatever he set up as a tell is still in place. So they're either extremely good or nobody's been there. And I'm going to say, just for me, I want to know, it would have to be like, I think, I'm going to go with almost impossible that somebody would have known, hey, there's a little rock on this little torn piece of cloth and it's set up in a way that if it's disturbed, that it'll be a tell. Someone would have to be really good to notice that. Doesn't mean it's out of the question, although the phrasing here is impossible. That means 5%, 5 or less is a yes, that this is a trap, this is a setup. Ooh, that was close. It's a 6. I saw the zeros, I'm like, what is that 6? It's a 6. So it's not, and we're not going on degrees of how close, but Casimir kind of watches his entrance for a while. I think this is maybe to a point that he wouldn't even move into this spot in daylight. Maybe that's what that's telling me. He's got whatever Overwatch position he has, he sets up. I'm picturing like maybe another structure, broken up building. He gets in, gets a view on it, can see everything's fine, but he's not going to move into the bear den until it's dark. Why not maintain that? He's been coming and going only when it's dark. He wants that extra concealment. Got it. He sets up. He then kind of hangs out. I picture like a corner of a wall. He's ready. And he just kind of maybe eats a little bit of an MRE or he hangs out. He's going to wait until dusk. Is there any kind of random event? I think he's in a pretty quiet place, but it doesn't mean, I'm going to say it's very unlikely. 25%, any random event that happens while he's there. Ooh, 100. So not only no, but heck no. There's no, wow, full 100. So he's in the spot, nothing comes through. He eats in peace. I think it means darkness is coming. That even tells me he waits until it's sufficiently dark. He sneaks out. He removes his sign, his telltale sign. He's able to check the area. Nothing looks disturbed at all. Quietly moves the rock, slides into his bear den, is able to kind of scan it with a light. You know, maybe it's a red lens on there. Everything looks clear in his bear den, and he rolls that rock back in place. He's able to securely now move in and check the areas where he has stashed stuff. It's not like it's sitting out in the open. Even this has been kind of obscured by a rock or whatever, and nothing has been touched. So he's in his bear den. Everything looks good. I think he even maybe stashes a little bit more food in the area. Again, it seems like this is a good spot. He preps it. And he hunkers down here for a good 2 days. Just a good 2 days. Venturing out at night, I think, just to check the area. Almost still in that scouting mode, but very, very cautiously. And I'm just going to do another random event check. Not anything on this where I'm checking to see NPC. It's more like, again, I want action and subject from Mythic. Is he seeing anything with his very limited scouts? We have 46, develop, and 26, the physical. All right, well, that tells me part of what he's going to be looking at is just the surrounding area. And I think he's confirmed on what old Cause told him. Old Cause, that just became it, Old Cause. Old Cause was telling him, hey, vigilante groups are basically scouring around looking for Bartek's marauders and taking them out. And the developing physical is he's seeing exactly that take place. Still really hot, dangerous area, and I think he retreats back after still seeing there's like vigilante crews out, basically pitchforks and torches and taking out anybody that looks like a marauder. Day 2, I think I want to see what are we getting here. What is Casimir getting here? 50. He's getting D-base, okay. So D-base, either it means he's moving out or something's been corrupted. We'll see what the other word is. 44, prison. Prison. Well, again, I think still in line with what's going on is some of the marauders have been rounded up by these Nosians, and he sees that they're even being held, the ones that haven't been executed are being held in like a mock prison. I'm picturing like a schoolyard prison, open air. And I believe at this point in time, Casimir goes back, bear den. He's spotted this, and he decides the full start of day 2 here, because he's kind of staying in the bear den during the day, coming out at night, doing some very cautious and limited scouts. So basically, he's coming out the 3rd day in daylight, and he goes right back to where old Cause was at. So he goes back. Does he run into old Cause? I think it's very likely. He's hanging out. He said this is where you would find him. He's clearly on just like an Overwatch position. 85, 81. So yes, he spots him. He runs into old Cause. I'm curious. So using you and I, or Une, I want to know how this conversation mood would go. So we already had what felt to me just as like a neutral place. It wasn't overly friendly, but it was information sharing. and it felt neutral. It didn't feel necessarily friendly or distrustful, just neutral. But I want to know how this is going to break out. So I'm going to use the neutral side of Une under the NPC conversation mood. I'm going to stay neutral, and it's going to then turn into either withdrawn, guarded, cautious, neutral again, sociable, helpful, or forthcoming. 85, that's going to be very good under this. So 85, ooh, it almost moved into helpful, but it is sociable. So Cause sees him and gives Casimir a friendly greeting. So greeting is friendly. And I think he simply asks, well, what have you found out on your own, Casimir? Well, he says, old man Cause definitely didn't feel comfortable moving around in the daylight. He goes, smart move. Not sure you would have survived. And he says, what have you seen? Or what questions do you have? He says, what's with the mock prison going on over at the school? And old Cause says, yeah, those that aren't being killed on sight are being rounded up and held for whatever passes as judicial review over at the school. And I think Casimir on that note is even like, wow, I mean, just hearing whatever passes for judicial review. So again, he's on a fact-finding deal here. I think he says, well, who's running that show? And there's got to be, I mean, it would be run by a leader. And I'm picturing he's talking about a lawyer. So, and he mentions a lawyer back from the old days. So this is interesting. Under my name search program, I actually got Casimir's, and it's spelled, I'm spelling mine differently than what this Polish spelling is, Kazimierz. And I think old Cause says, funny enough, it's another Casimir's. Kazimierz Zajac. Now, again, still using Une for this Kazimierz Zajac, I'm going to determine what his mood is, because this is what old Cause is going to tell him. So we've got two areas here we're going to roll. 58 is going to put it on a 6. And then we got to see what the other level is going to be. 37. Ooh. So 37 just gets us into the hostile range. It would have gone from support, and it's gone over to rage. So old Cause says, well, Zajac is basically not being a very lenient judge. Word has it, a lot of his family were killed by the marauders, and he's letting them have it. So, okay. And I think Casimir's like, all right. He goes, old man Cause says, if you run into him or his vigilantes, you better be able to prove you're from the hospital and not some remnant of the marauders. And I think Casimir says, I think I'm headed back to base. And old man Cause says, might be a good idea to let things take their own course for a while. All right, that's some decent intel. I think he's verified this by seeing the hunting groups out and then by seeing this makeshift prison in the schoolyard. I think that's verifiable enough that he heads back. I want to just, I think with old man Cause watching this area, I think it's a near sure thing that he's going to be able to get back onto base. Kind of the same way he came out. And that's a 90, though. We saw that didn't go well as we left. 61. Yeah, so he moves right back onto base. Gets in, no problem. Sometimes friendly fire can even be an issue, and I would imagine those that are left in base at the hospital are hair trigger. He gets in over the wall, no problem. Password, whatever. Reports to Kanan Krieg, first sergeant, and shares exactly what he found out. Krieg is kind of like ecstatic. If that's not even, maybe he's like warm-hearted about it. Yeah, in like a semi-creepy way, Krieg's like, oh, it's like a double win. At the same time, Casimir puts out that, hey, it's hot enough out there that I don't think we're at a point that we could like go out and introduce ourselves to lawyer Zajek at this point in time, but at some point in time, maybe Jan can go out and make introductions. And, I know, Krieg is basically says, Casimir, let me worry about the high strategy. And Casimir's like, and he's back to go check on Eddick. So before we leave, I want to see, I think Eddick's got this radio up and working perfectly. It's all back together. I think this has to be. I picture Casimir coming in, opening the door, but what do we get? 14. Yeah, not only is it back together, and I guess we didn't establish what kind of radio it is. Would he be messing with just some musical radio? Is it just some kind of radio that plays music, or are we talking like some kind of military radio? So I've got 89. The question being, is this some kind of music radio? That's a no. So that means he was messing around with it. It was all in pieces. I think he was messing around with one of these ham radio sets. And here we go. I got it. Just to be interesting, he's strung up an antenna, because I've read some really cool stuff where some of these ham radio operators using the stratosphere or whatever would be able to tune in and catch signals that can be coming from across the world, depending on how they were bounced. So with that result, I think Eddick's picking up English. I don't know from where. Could be just from England. Could be, no, it's got to be American. I think he's picking up some ham radio operators that are talking in English. I like this, and I want to know just generally, what are they talking about? And then we're going to close this episode. 59, some kind of agree, and 22, energy. Agree, energy. So agree, energy. I would imagine they're hearing something about some hydroelectric dam, which would have Eddick just enthralled. And the idea that energy is out there, I think would be tantalizing. And again, Casimir's just kind of like, how did you do this? Scene. Perfect. I like it. Boy, that's interesting. And we've got a ham radio operator is born. So, again, we'll just come back. If you like this content, please, this is a little bit out there for some of the folks that are usually on just my board game channel. If you enjoy the content, thumb it, subscribe, and do me a favor, put the word out on the interwebs. If you really, really, really like it, you can go to Patreon, look up Bonding with Board Games, and you can support financially as well. That's up to you. Definitely helps the show. It's a good start. Episode 1 is in the can with a little interruption along the way, but that worked out well. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on episode 2. Boom.